Namaste.
Salamat Patang.
That's about all I know in Malay. So please take your seats. Thank you for your kindness. I have goosebumps up here, so thank you very much. And I wanted to bring Kim up here. She'll be back in a little while. But
Same for me.
And as she says, I'm just glad to see so many women here. And the reason I have Kim up here is because I wouldn't be here on stage with you if not for her. So I was very fortunate. And that's because when she met me back in 1984, I had no money.
I did not marry him for his money.
Because I didn't have any. I had, in the 70s, I had started my nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And the business went straight up into the sky. We were in our 20s, we're millionaires, 3 guys. But as you know, what goes up comes down. And I came down and it really hurt. And when I met Kim by 84, I had paid off a lot of the bills, but I was still about $800,000 in debt. That's a lot more than it is, today that's a lot of money. 800,000 today is nothing because we print so much money. But anyway, but nonetheless, it's one of the best experiences of my life and our lives was to work our way out of debt and pay it off.
And I just want to say, I heard there was a fantastic crowd out here, so I wanted to come and see it for myself. And I'll be back up here a little later, but as Robert said, when we started out, he had no money, I had a job, and we took a leap of faith to start building our first business. And we struggled, and it was tough, and we had some rough times. It was very stressful. But the most important thing is that we kept going and we didn't quit. When everybody said, oh, you should go get a job, do your business later. But we kept going because otherwise we knew it would be a step backwards. So we kept going, and I think Robert and I were a great team. And we wanted our life partners to also be business partners. And so when we met in 1984, Robert asked me, he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want my own business. And a month later, I had my own business, and we've been business partners now for 25 years, and married for 25 years. So I'm thrilled to be here in Malaysia, and yes, I'm thrilled to see so many women here, and I'll talk about that a little later, but thank you for having Robert and me here. We look forward to the next few hours with you. Thank you.
Let's see a show of hands. How many people have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Who has not yet read the book? Oh, good. We have some more customers. I'm glad to see that. We have some books out for sale outside there. Many people think I got rich on books. I was already rich before I wrote the book. And I just got richer. But the reason I say that is because a lot of people come and speak and they talk about money, but they have no money. And so I assure you that what I'm going to be talking to you about today is I have done. You had my wife up here saying, we were broke together, and we were in debt, and we had to claw our way back. And that turned out to be one of the best educations I've ever had. It's like when I lost my business in 1982 because of the nylon wallet business. It was really painful. It was a very big loss. And I went to see my poor dad, and he said, just forget about it. And I went to see my rich dad, and he said to me, he says, hey, you have an opportunity to learn something very few people ever learn. He says, no, very few people screw up as big as you screw up. And he says, if you can unscrew up what you screwed up, you'll be smarter. So that is Today I'll be talking a lot about the differences between my rich dad and my poor dad. And for those who haven't read the book, the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a true story about my two dads. My real dad, man I call my poor dad, was a PhD in education. He was a superintendent of education for the entire state of Hawaii. But I call him a poor man because no matter how much money he made, he was always broke. And my rich dad was my best friend's father, and he was a man without much education. He had to drop out of school in the 8th grade at age 13 because his father died and he had to run the family business. So when I met my rich dad, I was 9 years old. And that's when my rich dad began to teach me. And the way he taught me financial education, some of which I'm going to be talking to you about today, was he started simply playing the game of Monopoly with me. And we played the game for hours and hours and hours, and he would teach me financial strategies, how to think like a rich person. And then I would go home to my poor dad, the head of education, and he would say, "What you been doing all day?" I said, "Playing Monopoly." He said, "Stop wasting your time! Do your homework. If you don't do your homework, you won't get good grades. And if you don't get good grades, you won't get a good job." Must have the same father, huh? So as I say, like I am very controversial in Malaysia, in China, and all over the world. In the United States, I go on television programs, and they don't let me come on anymore. Because I have the nerve to criticize education. And I'm not anti-education, I'm anti-stupidity, I mean, why, all of us go to work for money, but why don't they teach us about money? Yeah. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you today about, is what my rich dad taught me about money, starting at age 9 with the game of Monopoly. And most of us know there's many formulas, there's many ways you can get rich. There are so many ways to get rich, especially today with the web and the technology. It's so easy to get rich. Yet in America, we have more poor people today than we did 10 years ago. In America today, the middle class is now going poor. And my generation, the baby boom generation, is going to be a complete disaster. It looks like all the investment banks like Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers is already gone, but they're all going down. And the reason is we don't have financial education, and it's going to hurt my generation. So that's why I'm concerned. I know Malaysia has no problems out here, your booming economy and all this, but it will affect you. I predicted in this book here, I don't have it here. Anyway, Rich Dad's Prophecy, that the crash would come in 2016. We have 4 more years. Okay? And I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But what I see coming, by 2016, I see coming. And so that's why, and I saw this coming back in 1972, when I flew for the U.S. Marine Corps fighting in Vietnam. And I could see this crisis coming. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I could see it coming. So today it's here. Today, how many people realize that Europe's in trouble? Okay. How many people do not know that? I'm serious. I was really shocked. I did a press conference here in Malaysia, KL, a few days ago, and most of the reporters had no idea that the world was in crisis. Well, no, it's because your economy is still going good. Singapore is still doing good. And so I'll be talking about that today. Now, I'll say it again. I predict 2016. Some people say 2017. Others say 2020. So, let's hope it doesn't come. But the difference here was that because I started preparing back in 1973, I'm a rich man today. And the way I became a rich man was not listening to the bullshit they tell you on TV. I don't believe them. I don't trust my government. Not that they're bad people. I just don't trust them. Okay? I'm not saying don't trust your government because they throw you in jail. a government official. They're good people. There's no jack about money, you know. You know, as my father says, you give a person like my dad $1, they spend 100. That's why they're government officials, you know. And he says, you give a capitalist $1, he'll turn it into 100. So what I'll be talking today about is how the rich get richer. Because as a concerned citizen, I'm fourth generation Japanese American, I'm very concerned for my country and its people. That's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's why I created the cash flow game, is because our schools need financial education more so than ever before. So that's why I write, and that's why I teach, and that's why I thank you for being here and giving me time and money to be here, and I'll do my best that you will leave here totally screwed up. You will leave here confused, like, what was he talking about? But what you'll find is that there's a complete opposite between Rich Dad and Poor Dad. As I said, you know, Poor Dad always said, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, buy a house, get out of debt. And my Rich Dad says, you'll never get rich doing that. You have to be a crook to get rich doing that, you know. So, my Rich Dad, like I said, began with Monopoly. I was 9 years old, and he said, one of the great formulas for wealth is found in the board game Monopoly. I said, what is it? He said, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. I said, is that it? He goes, yeah. So at 9 years old, I said, well, why am I going to school? I go home to see my poor daddy. Ah! Don't listen to him. And so that's why when I speak, there's controversy. So today, as most of you had the same advice of go to school, get good grades, get a job, work hard, save money, and in America we have a thing called a 401k, it's a retirement plan. I don't do that. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is this. Most people want a tip, a hot tip. Yeah, I was being interviewed by a reporter the other day. He says, you have a hot tip. I said, I'll give you a hot tip. She said, what's that? Don't ask for tips, you know? It's like anything else. If you want to be good at something, you've got to study. And my job here today is encourage you to study, to be a student, escolar, you know, student. So I have been a student ever since I was 9 years old. And every day, I find out how stupid I am. The more I learn, the more I know how much I don't know. Does that make sense, you guys here?
Yes.
So I wish I could say you'll study and get smarter. You're going to study and find out you're stupid. And every day I wake up and say, how did I even get this far? I didn't know anything. You know, so what I'm going to be talking to you about today is the subject of money. What I'm going to say will contradict much of what people are taught, especially if they went to government schools. Because schools need people to be employees. What I'm saying right now is we need people to be capitalists. You know, people who know how to create jobs, know how to invest money. That's what we need. See, Singapore, I mean, this whole region here, the reason I can say Salamat Patang and Terima kasih and Apa kabar and all that is back when I was 16 years old, my poor dad was the head of Peace Corps for Southeast Asia. He stopped being the government official and joined the federal government to teach Peace Corps trainings. So this is in Hilo, Hawaii, where I grew up, because Hilo looks a lot like KL. And my dad started training Peace Corps trainees for the Philippines, Sabah, Sarawak, and Taiwan. So as children of Peace Corps instructors, we had to learn another language. So my father said to me, you have to learn a language. I'm 15, 16 years old. I mean, I don't even understand English. Why am I going to learn another language? So I'm sitting there and I say, okay, so my brother and I, and these two other brothers, the Patterson brothers, we're just surfers. You know, we have no interest in study. And so they said, you got to choose your teachers. So we sit down, and the Filipino teachers are these young guys.